few years ago, I started a project called The Steel Mirror of Her Smile. It's based on the life of Edith Wharton. I pretended I was her, and I wrote what I thought would be her diary, something she would write if she didn't think anybody was watching or reading. I used to work at the Mount, her estate in Lenox, Massachusetts, and I was saturated with Mrs. Wharton for several years. A few years after that, I started writing this story. It's a work of fiction. However, some of the passages have been taken directly from Edith Wharton's novels, letters, and diary entries. In this text, the brief phrases that I take verbatim from her language are in italics. When I read this now, you're not going to know what is hers and what is mine, because the two styles of prose in this case are very, very close. But I'll try to change my voice a little bit so you can see the difference. Sources from this work are Hermione Lee's 2007 biography of Edith Wharton, Modern Love and Other Poems by George Meredith, and Edith Wharton's novels The House of Mirth and Summer. This was originally published in Meet for Tea, a literary journal, a wonderful literary journal from the Pioneer Valley. It was then published again in Best Indie Lit New England, Volume 1. And I think this came out in 2011. I may be wrong. 22nd of May, 1908, 58 Rue de Varennes. After the events of this spring, it seems errant and incorrect somehow to be leaving for Lenox tomorrow. After Teddy and Misery left Paris for a spa in Arkansas in March, I have taken many liberties with M, or as many as possible, what with my schedule. Have been snatching time to meet with him whenever I can. Lately he has been teasing me about my lack of experience in matters of love. His taunts are almost not playful, and they make my cheeks burn with shame. It is true, I am inexperienced. Lately my lack has been very much in the foreground. I am not pretty enough, not young enough, not many things enough for M. I have been too sad for too long. And something in my nature, some lack, I suppose, has left me starving for what other women seem, at least once in their life, to know. And yet those bitter feelings are washed away by other afternoons. The other day we sat in the Jardin de Luxe and took in the warmth. In my feverish ear he whispered that I was his love, his darling, and I stared at the other lovers, walking carefully side by side, and I wondered if they knew what I knew, that my bottomless appetite for this man has drained the world of its blood. I can't bear the thought of a summer and fall in Lenox. I will miss the constant blues, our word for the little notes that fly between us several times a day. Meet me at the Louvre, Bois de Boulogne, the Tuileries, jusqu'à le moment prochain. I love it, you know I do. With these fragments of scribbled phrase on my breakfast tray, an entire scene unfolds in my mind as I hurtle toward our next meeting. 1st of October, 1908, Lenox. Nothing. No letters, no blues, nothing. Curt replies through the spring and early summer have dwindled and no longer arrive. I wrote M today asking for my letters back, for what can remain? He has forgotten me or has forgotten what was between us. I cannot know what is worse. Anything on earth would be better than to sit here and wonder, what was I to him then? I am reminded of George Meredith's Modern Love, a favorite of M's, written in 1862 after Meredith's marriage crumbled under his wife's infidelity, written the year I was born. I find myself returning to the verses again and again. Yeah, filthiness of body is most vile, but faithlessness of heart I do hold worse. The former, it were not so great a curse to read on the steel mirror of her smile. Also, I am reminded of the poem's original subtitle, This is not meat for little people or for fools. I'm still too young and tender somewhere to be hurt this way, and too old to play these girlish games that end in heartache. The silence and too obvious faithlessness of his heart is crushing me. It still Suffocatingly hot here, and I cannot bear to be in my once beloved Lenox paradise a moment longer. 5th of June, 1909, Charing Cross Hotel, London. Sensing last night a coda or a terminus of sorts. I thought as much, even as I was crying into M's open mouth. As we lay on the sooty bed, bathed in lurid red light, palm to palm, breast to breast. He left some time ago and sent roses just now. Outside the window, the train thrumming within and without as we made love. And the rhythm jolted me into a meter I must try to master. 14 July, 1911 at the Mount. Yesterday's horrors tell me I have no choice but to sell the house. Teddy initially agreed, but is now vehemently opposed. He returned from a fishing trip yesterday and immediately became abusive, much to H's horror. After tearing through the gallery and up the stairs to my boudoir, I could hear him clattering below. He told me that I must save myself and leave him, but he still won't agree to sell this boat anchor of a house, and then begs me not to turn my back on him. Oh, if I were free, free, free! Isn't it awful to have a chain snaffled around one's neck all the time without knowing it? And again, a miserable heat wave. H left today, mortified by the scene. 26 September 1911 at the Rue de Varenne. When I landed a few days ago, I received a cable that Teddy had sold the Mount. All this, after I made him promise not to do no such thing until I cabled him from Paris and could consult with him. I wish I could be more pleased about the publication of Ethan Frome, but I have received news from the doctors in French Lick, Indiana, that Teddy does have some sort of psychosis. Feeling terrible vertigo and shock. Have much in common with Mr. Frome and his crushed hopes. Little else makes sense to me. Without the Mount for us to share, there is truly nothing for me and the dear old man. I no longer recognize the gallant, supportive, gentle soul I married 26 years ago. I timidly write the word I have been avoiding with heart and pen. Divorce. That's all for now. I hope you liked that selection from Steel Mirror of Her Smile. I will upload more as more is revealed.